Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Horns and Hooves. We are so excited. Taylor will be hopping on soon. It's never ending. If you work with animals, you just never know what's going to happen. And she's had some things happen during the night and she's checking on things this morning. So she'll be hopping on shortly. I want to introduce you to our friend Courtney Henson. She is with Little Finger Farm up in Northwest Georgia. We're excited to have her on. She is going to talk to us a little bit about how she got started and some things that she would have known, because she's got a good story and I'm excited to have her on and have you guys listen. Courtney, tell us how you got started and when you got started.
So I moved to Northwest Georgia in July of 2023. I was previously in Virginia where I was working, and then we moved down here to Georgia and I moved to remote with my job and found the property that I'm on now. And so moved from like a third of an acre to 10 acres and decided that we would get some livestock to help with our pasture management. And there's 10 acres and it's about half pasture, half woods and a pond. And we were not really interested in bush hogging like all weekend, like after working and the kids had school and stuff. We were not really interested in spending hours and hours bush hogging on the weekend. I've seen some people locally have these cute little fluffy cows. Like we should totally get some of those because like then we could have them eat the grass and then we don't have to bush hog. So when we bought the property, it came with 3 goats, 3 Nigerian dwarf goats, and like 9 chickens from the prior owner. And then in the front pasture, our neighbor out front, Mr. Tony, he had a steer out in the front 2 pastures to help the prior owner to, eat the grass and have pasture management. So he came and him picked up like later in the fall. And at that point we were like, okay, we have like all this pasture and we don't want to spend all weekend like bush hogging. So hey, we saw some of these like cute little fluffy cows online. We should like totally get some little fluffy cows. Like, let's see what, this will be so much fun, and we got 2 bull calves and put them in the top pasture. And then we like a month later got 2 heifer calves and moved them to the front pasture. And then, cow math is like chicken math. So like, let's get a couple more. And like, we got plenty of space. Like we got a couple more and a couple more. And then, oh, hey, like they're too young. They're too young to breed. So I guess we should like buy a few and sell a few and like try to offset the feed bill and the hay bill. And then all of a sudden you're like, how did I end up with like, 16 cows? Like you're like something happened.
You and I have the same math. My husband told me I could start with 4. I think I'm at 204. Go ahead.
I'm like, oh no, what has happened? So in the, during that duration, we got a couple of different kinds. Like we were trying to like match some up for breeding, got some donkeys, got some alpacas, got, like just got a whole bunch of like stuff. And it was all like, it was all going okay, right? Like we didn't know that okay is not really like the ideal state, and like maxed out is not like maxed out all the time is not a great place to be either. We were selling for like, I don't know, a few months. Like we would buy from like local small farms who had like, they were keeping like dams and sires and like couldn't keep related calves. Right. And so, we would find homes for them, make enough to like get a load of hay or whatever, and thought we were like doing a great job. And then we've had, when we first moved here, we moved here and there was a drought during that period. And then the next year we're like, okay, it's not as bad. And then it was another 4-month drought last year and another 4-month drought this year. And so what that means is no grass, like 0 grass.
That's so tough.
Yeah. So, like throughout all that time, I contacted our ag extension from University of Georgia, and you could do like free $9 soil sampling, basically free soil sampling. Right. So I did a soil sample like a year and a half ago in the front pasture just to see what the nutrients look like. And they were like, well, it doesn't look that bad, So I was like, okay, so other than there's too many animals on the pasture, like and the drought, like what else can we do to like offset, like why there's no grass? I guess it was like last summer I installed like an IBC tote of one of the run-in shelters. So I'm on well water. And so I was like, we need to harvest some rainwater to like offset that load. I set up one last summer. And then this year I set up 3 more. So we have like one up top, one on the chicken coop, one on the big chicken coop, and then one on the 2 front pastures on their run-ins. So that helps offset some of the water, because when there's a drought, like I have like a 1 to 2 acre pond, like the pond disappears. It's gone. Like, so when there's a drought, there's no water there. So I can't even use that. to irrigate
That
the
happens to
pastures.
us too.
And so you're like, okay, so there's no rain, like there's no pond to irrigate with, like, short of like going out and like putting sprinklers in all the pastures, like what do you do? So this last year, I guess it was like earlier this fall, late summer, early fall, I have a commercial cattle friend up in Tennessee, which seems really far, but it's an hour. I'm like 50 miles from the border. So I drive to the border for Costco. Like it's like 1 hour. So we go up there, I was like, he has commercial cattle. He has lease pastures. He cuts hay for people. Like, so he has like all these things that he does. And I was like, I need your advice. I need you to come look at what the heck is going on. And please, like, be brutally honest. Tell me what I need to do because I don't know. Like, you can go online and be like, what should I do about this? And get like 50 different answers. And I can go to the ag extension office and they can be like, dump a load of chemicals on your ground. And I'm like, maybe I don't want to do that, And so they're like, here, do fertilizer and drill and do all this stuff. But in the meantime, where are your animals supposed to go? Like, you can't just be like out there, like rehabbing a pasture and not have anywhere for your animals to actually go.
That's so true.
They got to eat, right? So he came down. He did like maybe an hour tour of the farm. And he's like, here's the deal. Like, here's what you got to do. Like, if you want to do cattle, you can't be doing everything else. Like, bottom line, because what that means is like we had pastures up top. And when you're having to isolate, especially goats, like keeping the billy away from the does when I don't want them to breed. My last like doe had triplets. And you know what I mean? I was like, so like there's 2 pastures right there, trying to keep those guys apart. And then we had mini donkeys. Well, they don't get along with the goats. You know what I mean? Or they don't get along with the billy goat. They get along fine with the does, and the babies, but not the billy goat. Cause he liked to headbutt everybody, including the cow, so you're like trying to do everything to like keep everybody separate. And what that does is that gives you less pastures to work with, less pastures to let grow. You know what I mean? And so you don't have any way to actually be like, okay, this one I'm going to like reseed and let it like rest because there's always something in it. So he was just like, you've got to like focus on what's bringing you money, at the end of the day. And you got to focus on, like if you want to do cattle, you need to do cattle, period. You can't be doing everything else. So I was like, okay. And then he's like, you got to reseed your pastures. You got to like do better with your rotational grazing. You got to do more cross fencing. Like, so he just kind of gave me like a big overview. And then he's like, hey, and also the hay you have over there is crap. Like that's super like not great quality. Like the quality was not great from here regionally. And he's like, this is not good. Like there's no grass for your cattle. They're not getting good feed. You know what I mean? Like, here's what I suggest you do. Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, like, 2 strikes, like, what's next? And so he was like, here are my suggestions, you can take it or leave. But like, I think his farm is like over 100 acres. And then he's got like 30 to 50 acres of lease pasture too. So he's like, look, I'm managing all this stuff because here's the way I'm doing it. And I'm like, thank you for your help. I don't know. Like I grew up on a farm when I was a kid, but I was a kid, like until I was 10, like something that, you're taught as a 9-year-old,
No, right?
That's not it.
And
but,
honestly, it's something people don't think about. I mean,
right.
You really,
right.
A lot of people don't. Honestly, when we started with 12 acres behind my house and we were feeding a lot. We do have 80 acres up at our old shop that we weren't utilizing at the time. We started utilizing and my husband and I had to go buy another 200 acres to run what we have because the cost of feed, I mean, yeah, you can have them on there, but you're wearing down that ground just having them on there. And the cost of feed is insane when you're feeding them year round.
Yeah. Like I went from, just going to like the feed store or Tractor Supply or whatever to like, I have to get it in like, like the 1 ton, like big bag, and like take my trailer, like to go. And then you like run into like, okay, the tractor can only handle like a half a ton at a time. You know what I mean? So then you're like, okay, like every time I need a half ton. So it was becoming this perpetual cycle where you're feeding the beast, right? Like all you're doing is you're making money at your regular job to buy feed. And that's all you're doing. So I took his suggestions and started implementing some of them and have already noticed like a big difference, right? So a lot of people, you'll see posts online, like how many cows can I have in this size? Well, it depends. Also, you shouldn't go for the max, right? Like you shouldn't go for like the max, like, oh, I can possibly have this many if all the conditions are like perfect and correct. I'm going to go for that many, No, you probably shouldn't. Like, start with 2, 4, whatever. Like maybe don't go to 10 or 12 because, the winter is not going to be your friend, with feeding. And then if you have like, for whatever reason, the last 3 years, we've just had terrible, terrible droughts in Georgia. Like this year, April and May, it rained for 6 weeks solid, like 6 solid weeks of just downpour. And then for 4 months, no rain, like 2 days of rain in 4 months. You have to like plan for worst case scenario. If this happens again, what's my plan? What's my plan for feed? What's my plan for hay? What's my plan for what do I do with the animals I have? And even though like I love them all, like I can't keep them all. So like I had posted, I guess maybe it was last week. I don't know. But like Renee had told me, she's like, you are their steward. They're not a pet. You have to make decisions for you, for your farm, for that animal. Maybe they are going to be hard and maybe it's not ideal or what you in your mind had envisioned long term for them. But you can't like drag everything else down, just so you can keep one animal for like the next 12 years because that was your original plan.
Got to be ready to pivot.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a misconception that more is better. And honestly, I mean, I can laugh about it because I have the means here. I have the ground. I get to rent my grandpa's land this summer. So I have another half section. But in reality, you're paying out in feed when you don't have enough room more than you're ever going to get when you go to sell the calf.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's another thing that people don't look at when they think more is better. Oh my gosh, I need this one. I need this one. It's so cute. I need more is not necessarily always better. And I have to tell myself that because I'm one that I want to retain everything. My husband jokes and says, if my wife would sell something, might be better off. But my wife has a problem with hoarding animals and she really hoards bulls because I want to see how they're going to turn out instead of steering them and just letting them go. And I need to be better. I have been better. I take that back.
Well, like I just always think like progress, not perfection. Right. And I also like I can commiserate because I have a bull problem also. It's so interesting to me. So we did like farm chores and field trips for like school age kids this last year. And I always tell them like the bulls are actually for the most part nicer than the heifers. But to be fair, like if I cycled every 3 weeks, I'd be grumpy a lot more also. So, I'm like, for whatever reason, like the majority of my bulls are fantastic, very friendly, take treats. Like, you know what I mean? Again, this is like another thing about learning. Like this is, you want to treat a bull, different than heifers, like, and some breeders will treat them that you don't touch the head, you don't touch the horns, you don't touch the face, you only touch the body, you don't interact with them in this specific way because there's always a potential. There's always a potential that they could be too friendly, over friendly. Like, I think we talk a lot about this, like for bottle caps too, like especially bulls. Like they can be too much, too aggressive, too pushy. Too much in your space. So I have a bull like that currently and I'm like, you got to go because I have young kids. I mean, young-ish, I guess. I have an 11 and a 15-year-old and they want to be out in the pastures helping. And if the animal is not safe, can I have them out there? And I'm like, even though this bull doesn't have horns because it's a Dexter, I'm like, I'm sorry, no. Like I can't have you in my space. I can't have you being pushy. I can't have you like rushing the food trough, just swinging your head around. Like you can knock somebody over, somebody can be hurt. So that's been another learning thing.
Right. Or they decide that they want treats. You didn't bring them any and they go between your legs and put you up against the fence.
Yes.
Coming from experience that actually happened to me.
Like not friend. Like this was
Harold, what did you just do? I have a Belted Galloway just at that perfect size. My husband at first thought it was funny letting him headbutt him when he was and realized that's wasn't such a funny thing to do. He's been really great because sometimes you can't take that out of them once they have
once it's there. Yeah.
And we've been fortunate that the older Harold has gotten, the less he's been socialized, I would say.
He
has been a lot better. Yeah, he got moved to the bullpen.
Yeah. You're like, I'm sorry. This is not it. I mean, but it's something that like you don't think about. You just think like, oh, like they're cute, they're friendly, this is great. Like, but they're not a dog, you know? And I think a lot of new cattle owners think, oh, this is cute and this is fun and look at this and I'm going to lay all over them and things like that. And I'm like, there are some cattle that you might be able to do that with. But at this point, you have to, for me, it's about safety. You know, you have to make sure that you're making things safe for you, safe for your kids, that kind of stuff. And that means like we can't be having animals that let you lay all over them. I just sent a steer up to my friend, the one that came down and did the assessment, that we'd had since he was 5 months old. And he was very friendly. And then he started doing the, where are my treats? Where's my food? I'm going to like run at you. And I'm like, sorry, buddy. Like we can't have that here. You know, like we can't have that here. Like he was more of a standard size, like a Jersey Angus cross. I'm like, nope, I'm sorry. We cannot. Even though you're all legs, it doesn't matter. Like if you hit any of us.
It doesn't. And I think it goes, it's not just with the Highlands. You're putting horns on Highlands now, or High Parks, or anything that's horn. You got those horns. And even when you might think that you have the tamest animal out there. I have Bessie. Bessie was never bottle fed. She was never halter trained, never anything. She is in your face, in your window, in your whatever.
Yeah.
But think about during fly season. They want to be in your face, but they got flies bugging them and they might not mean to do anything and they're flinging those horns around.
Yeah, just as easy as that. Like, especially, fly season is terrible here. They're just moving their head because they're trying to get a fly off them, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like, that's all it takes to get a horn across the face. You know, or in the side or your back, you know? And I'm like, I'm not really interested, you know, in that little situation. One of my friend's suggestions was like work on getting leased pasture. And so I was very fortunate that I got like 2 miles away. I got some leased pasture. So I moved a bunch of the bulls there and my mini donkeys, like, because she doesn't have anything else there. Another one of the recommendations was to get leased pasture so that I could get like the volume of animals, like the current pasture, so that the reseeding that I did would actually like have grass and stuff come up, you know? So I was very fortunate, like around the corner, I have two, like a husband and wife team that are they're my farm hands and my friends. They come out, they help me with small jobs, big jobs, fencing. They built my chicken coop, but also like they help me haul livestock, help me go get hay, all that kind of stuff, because that's not something that you might know how to do or feel super comfortable doing on your own, right? Or like figuring out how to like drive the tractor and move it to do certain things other than just going like forward, right? Like how to move like your hay rings and stuff. Yeah. So they knew somebody who had a farm that she was renting out the pastures for people to just cut hay, you know? And like she wasn't even keeping any of it, but she was just letting them like, you know, pay to lease the pastures and grow hay. And I went over there and talked with her and she's like, yeah, you can have this pasture and then you can rotate to these other two. And I was like, well, fantastic. So I sent 3 bulls over there and my 2 mini donkeys, because she didn't have any other like livestock guardians or anything like that. And then one of those bulls, like I lease out to like some of the ladies around here who have dairy heifers and dairy cows, because he's a Galloway Dexter cross. And so he's like a nice size for, you know, dairy heifers. So nice. So he kind of like rotates there and back. You know what I mean? He goes off to summer camp or winter camp or whatever, as it were, depending on when they want to calve. But again, that's another like way to bring in money to offset feed instead of just having more animals, like to better utilize animals you do have. So I rehomed all my alpacas. I got rid of all my goats. I moved those 3 bulls and 2 donkeys to that leased pasture. And then my friend who came to do the assessment, he took 3 of my bulls. So one, he took a steer that we're sending to market. And then he took my 2 mini like Highland crosses that we're going to use for agritourism. And he let me come up and I got to steer them up at his place and like learn how to do that so that, you know, I don't have to pay the vet to come out to do that now. Right.
Awesome.
So they're up there until January, you know, but basically I took my cattle load and like in half. And then I have like 3 pastures up front, 4 up top, and we're going to cross fence again. But basically just giving each space time to like grow. So we did winter rye and fescue. And then in the spring, we'll do like another round, you know what I mean? And then in the fall. And so I'm hoping within 12 to 18 months, we're at a better maintenance stage than we were before, because there was like no grass, like nothing, you know, they had eaten it and there was like patches of dry dirt. Like there was like spots where there was nothing. So We reseeded. We took some of that lower quality hay, rolled it out and seeded there, you know what I mean? To give like the seed something to hold on to. And so we have just continued to like do that. And we've gotten some rain. So now we have some grass, you know? So,
Awesome.
so we're making progress. Thought it was odd when people would be like, oh, if you're a cattle farmer, you're a grass farmer. It's the truth, right? It's the truth. If you don't have grass, you don't have hay, like you can't, I mean, you can have cattle, but this is not a feedlot. Right? Like that's not how I'm operating it.
It's going to cost you way more than you're ever going to get out of it if you're feeding year round. That's what stinks.
I don't think I've stopped feeding hay like in 18 months easily.
That's hard.
It's a continual expense, which is, you know, in some respects fine because I'm going to feed my animals. But also, like when you're talking about fly season and having to do like 2 and 3 different things, and you're talking about worming and you're talking about vet care, like all those things like add up. And so at the end of the day,
they do.
Like you have to be like, what I spent on hay last year, like I could have bought a new cattle chute and sweep system. I could have bought, you know what I mean? Like covered storage for my hay. Like I could have bought, you know, when you start to equate it to like the infrastructure and those sorts of things. That you need for your farm. Like you have to be like, okay, cost benefit, like what do I need to do? And so what that means sometimes is that you have to decide, are you going to be a hobby farm? Are you going to be a homestead? Are you going to be like a, you know what I mean? A breeding production type farm. Like you have to decide what you want to do. And being a hobby farm is totally fine. That's totally fine. But I've had to like change and progress to homestead because with, you know, only having a few animals to breed, like only having a few number of calves per year, that means that I can't do just one breed. So I have Dexters, you know what I mean? Which is perfect homestead size for meat and milk. You know what I mean? And so you have to like change your perspective on you're fine. What are the things that you like are like non-negotiables or like I'm not going to change? During farming, you are constantly reevaluating. Like, is this working for me? If it is, good. Do I want to do more? Do I want to do the same level? Do I want to do less? Or this isn't working for me. What do I need to do different? You know, because I had a variety of animals and we did a few petting zoos. But I never made money on them, you know, and even though the animals were great, like, and my kids thought they were fun doesn't pay the bills and doesn't feed your animals. So I had to be like,
no, it doesn't.
We need to find a better situation for them. So they went to a rescue up in Tennessee, you know, that does petting zoos. That's a full, you know, life cycle place. That, you know, like the lady loves, she does mostly equine, like horses and donkeys, but she has like one cow and, you know, she has emus. And so like they're like a 501c. So like this is a good situation for them. They'll be well taken care of. And I just had to like be willing to change my perspective of, hey, like you got to do something different. You got to do something different. You got to try something different. Be willing, like, so the big thing, be willing to accept constructive criticism and input from people who know what they're talking about, who have like bigger setup than you that can see long term. Like my friend, he can move them to way bigger and way more pastures than me. And when you have a smaller property, you have to be super selective. You can't keep them all.
Yes.
And just because you have access to get more, you can't say yes. Like you can't, you know, even though like really, really want to, but I can't, you know, because
I love that because it's so true. It is. I find a lot of people are in those shoes. They think, oh, well, it says, you know, 1 or 2 per 5 acres, depending on the size, all of that. And then pretty soon they have 4 and pretty soon it's 6. And then they're like, I don't have any space. How am I going to separate this bull? How am I going to, you know, there's so many aspects to it. And the cost just keeps increasing. And so I think it's a great thing. This is a great learning experience for everybody because make sure that you talk to somebody. Like you ended up talking to like extension office. And I know that they can help a lot with all of this and helping you plan before.
So whatever land grant college, I guess is what they're typically called, like whatever ag college is in your state, they should have not just an extension office like in your county or near you, but they also have classes. So earlier this year, I took the Master Cattleman's course through UGA. And a lot of times, like, it's not going to tell you everything, right? And I know that for those of us who are like pet and breeding breeders, you know, and not necessarily beef breeders, some of the information is not as helpful to us as it might be to a production cow-calf operation or something like that. But it's at least a starting point. And it gives you a point of contact for somebody to talk to. Like, we had one night for an hour and a half, they talked about like forages. So basically like pasture management. They talked about rotational grazing. They talked about, you know, like different things you want to consider, like when you want to set up, like when you want your calving window to be. So you have to like set, you know, like here's when the bull needs to be out. Here's how long. Like, and it gives like a lot of general information that if you've never owned cattle before, it's good to have. Like, you may not eat your cows, and that's okay. But for those people who want just basic knowledge about vaccinations or about like profits and like what the cattle market looks like in the United States, it gives you like so much information you maybe didn't have. Like, I didn't have, and I grew up and we had cattle, you know, like I didn't run cattle at like 9 years old. Like, I wasn't like in the execution phase.
And I think that those classes are awesome. On top of, check those out, see if this is for you, and also go talk to your local feed store, your local vet. All of those things we've talked about before on here are so important before you get started to think about. And that's why we're trying to educate people through this podcast by bringing on people, real situations, and also bringing on those people I had my vet on can help. We've had some feed represented nutritionists on, which they can't, every state, and I can't enforce this enough, every state is different. So when we do bring these on, remember to check with your state, just like Courtney said, your state college, whatever, your local vets can help. We have an extension office here in Custer County that is super helpful. Yeah, make sure you reach out and talk to those people before, oh my gosh, that's a cute little calf and they just had it in the house. I'm going to go buy it.
I had a phone call last week, like somebody looking for a house cow, and I'm like, that doesn't exist. No, I saw my girlfriend saw it online. I bet she did. It's not a real thing, buddy. It might be a sick calf that's like 2 days old. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't want that in your house because they still are several hundred pounds, even as minis. Like, they poop a lot. Like, they're not for the house, buddy.
I had to bring one in to warm up. She was in here overnight, and my daughter is like, do you realize what I cleaned up the next morning on the floor? And it's so sticky because it's their first.
The meconium, or like, the breastfed or whatever. Like, oh.
Yeah, she's like, it was awful. We were going to bring it in the next night. And she said, go put it in the bathtub, which.
You're like, no, we're not super interested. So like we were saying, like about checking with the extension office, pasture management adjacent, harvesting rainwater, make sure it's legal in your state. Like, it's legal in Georgia, was legal in Virginia. In some states, it's not legal to harvest rainwater, which seems very strange. But like in some states, I think it has something to do with like the water systems and like if the state manages it. I'm not sure.
I'll be done.
But you can check and look online and it'll tell you like if it's legal in your state. Great advice on talking to the feed store, because a lot of the feed store employees, like especially if you're talking like local or co-ops or whatever, they have cattle. They can give you recommendations.
I can mention, so we own a feed store. So yeah, not only can like you go to your local feed store, they know like they can put you in line with a nutritionist. Like, we have a nutritionist on hand that will call and like set up, they'll look like, what is your ground like? Okay, we need this mineral package. You need to be getting this much feed, this much fat. Like, they will break it all down for you. And so like, yeah, talking to your local feed store is like a huge thing. Like, you have the ag offices, but like someone in your town or really local that will even send out people to go look at the ground, right? And help give you an idea of like what we're missing. So that's a huge one.
Yeah, I mean, and like exactly that. Who's the local like large animal vet? Like, where can I get a cattle chute? Because like finding a large animal vet was like so hard for us. We would find one and then like they wouldn't come out, or they might not respond to emergencies, or they might just expect you to haul your cattle to them. I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I need you to come here, you know? And a lot of them won't see you or see your animal if they're sick if you don't have a chute. So like having a cute cow is great, but if you can't have the ability for the vet to come out, like, it's not helpful. So a lot of people get upset when I'm like, here's all the infrastructure you need in place: fencing, shelter, water, vet, you know, all these things. And they're just like, all right, the cute calf isn't so cute anymore, you know? Like, but I'm like, I'd rather you not purchase a calf if you're not capable and ready to handle it either.
Exactly. Hey guys, we could probably continue on about so many things that we wish we would have known. And we might just have Courtney back again. I've loved having her on here.
It's been great. Yeah.
So full of knowledge. Like, it's learning and it's things that we have had to go through ourselves. And I feel like this is great learning for new people wanting to start it. People that have their farms and have been in it a while. I think it's a really good thing for everybody to realize that they're not alone, that we all have issues. We all have things that we have to work through when owning animals. It's just one of those deals.
I think it's helpful when, like, for some of these groups that there has been a lack of gatekeeping of knowledge. Because for those of us who don't know and really want to learn, like, you don't know necessarily who to ask. So I've been very thankful that when I had like what I thought were dumb questions, people were like, oh, here's what you do. Or, hey, send me a message. I'll help you out. And this is exactly what, your podcast is about. Like, hey, I didn't know that this could be a problem, because sometimes it's regional and it might not be a problem for you, but it might be a huge problem for you. And you just don't know it yet because you haven't experienced like a drought or too much rain or an issue with XYZ. Like, you just don't know until it pops up and then you're like, oh man, what do I do?
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. We have had the best time with you today.
Ladies.
We love it. And we appreciate you hopping on and sharing your story. We will see you all next week on Horns and Hooves with another special guest. See you later.
Bye, guys.